Okay. Okay, today we're going to start from Lamed Vav, Amid Beis, towards the bottom. It's Mai al Davaracher Mishum Davaracher. The word Mai is 8 lines from the bottom. That's the bottom of the page. Okay. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. In this first of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We're learning also for Shlema from my father and for Naftali ben Menachem Bela. He was coming home yesterday. Gabriel, and Rachel. Okay, so we learned that there were these decrees that were done by the students of Shammai and Hillel. And one of these decrees was al davaracher mishum davaracher. He made a decree on something because of something else. Where exactly did we quote this? At the top of the page, we had the word the B'nai Sehem, and on the page back we had Takanta the Shammai Behillel. Remember where it was quoted exactly? The whole we had like 4 things that were in that list.
Here,
Okay, whatever the case is. Goes like this. Yeah, here it's just towards the top of the page on top of Lamed Vav. It says it was when Rav Achabar Ada said the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, and the decree on the bread was because of the oil. Then explained that the bread and oil was because of the wine, and the wine was because of the daughters, and daughters because of something else, and then something else was because of something else. That was okay. Now we're going back to explain this. It says like this. What is this? What did he mean by Davarach Mishim Davarach? Amar Nachum Yitzchak. Nachum Yitzchak says, they made a decree. We said before that a non-Jew doesn't have any impurity. It's only a Jew that has impurity when he's alive. So, however, there were decrees that a non-Jew should have impurity. Like a non-Jewish woman had the impurity of a nida. That was a rabbinic decree. That it's as if she's a nida. So here they put a decree on a non-Jewish boy that it's as if he's a tamei zav. So no one would want to come to hang out with him. That doesn't want to touch him. It's going to make other things tamei. Why did they do this? Why did they make a decree on a non-Jewish boy, so that other Jewish boys shouldn't hang out with him? Because if they do, they may accustom themselves to sodomy, which homosexual behavior. Amar Reb Zara says, says, I asked this a lot of times. It was really bothered me, this question. Reb Zara is saying that when he was by Rabasi it's Rabbi Yechon. Rabasi was asking Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon it's Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yechon was asking his teacher Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai it's Rabbi Nassim ben Amram. Rabbi Yanai was asking his teacher Rabbi Nassim ben Amram. Nassim ben Amram it's Rabbi. All the way back to Rabbi Danasi, this question was disturbing everyone. When does this non-Jewish child give off the ziva impurity? Amrali, And they told me that it's Ben Yaima, that when he's 1 day old, first day he's born, he's already gives off this impurity. However, when I came to Reb Chia, it couldn't have been by Reb Chia. It must be maybe Reb Nassim ben Amram. Amalei, who was by Reb Chia when it says Kishabasi? Who was it? When I came to Reb Chia, it was the I. 22. Yeah, but I think it's too early. I don't think Reb Zera could have been by Reb Chia. Anyway, it must be the Reb Nassim ben Amram. Reb Chia said, that he has to be 9 years old to give off the impurity. Shabasi v'etzesi dvarai, or it's supposed to be dvarav. Rashas corrects it. But Rebbe, when I came to Rebbe and I said what Reb Chia said, that not from 1 day old, but rather from 9 years old, Amarli, he said to me, Hanach dvarai v'achos divrei Reb Chia. Reb Chia is correct. You should drop what I said and take Reb Chia's opinion. The Amar, he said, that Reb Chia says, when does a non-Jewish child give off that impurity? When he's 9 years old. Since he's the age that he can have relations, he's old enough to have physically to have relations. So therefore, we want to put on him the impurity of Ziva, so that other Jewish boys won't be accustomed to being with him, because he would have that homosexual behaviors. Amar Ravina says, so Ravina says the same thing, l'chayra, seemingly should apply also to a girl. That a girl should not become tameh immediately when she's 1 day old, because she can't have relations when she's 1 day old. We're talking about a girl that's a non-Jewish girl. When did the rabbis impose on this girl that she should have the impurity of ziva? Right? When did they put that? Not when she's 1 day old, but when she's 3 years old, because that's the earliest age when she could physically have relations. Where's this pshita? It's obvious. The same halacha should apply. All right. I could have said like this: the boy that's 9 years old is already smart enough to cajole the other boy that's with him to have this behavior. The girl that's 3 years old, although she's physically able to have to have relations, but it doesn't mean that she can convince the person with her to have relations. She doesn't have that shrewdness. So I could have thought that maybe the girl also needs to be 9 years old to have this impurity. Kamash Malana comes to teach us, no, the girl when she's physically able, the boy when he's 9 years old. So in other words, the fact that the boy is 9 years old is not because he could cajole the other person into doing this, but it's because he physically can, and the same thing would apply to the girl. Okay, that's what it seems. It's a pshat. Stamech va'azol Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya kasvei de Rab Smaloi Shamei. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, who's the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he was leaning on the shoulders of his servant, his assistant, Rab Smaloi. I wonder if this is the Rab Smaloi that we said yesterday, that we said, telling me from Smaloi, his Smaloi Luda. Maybe that's the same one. I wonder if this is the same Rab Smaloi that says Taryag Mitzvahs. We have the one source that there's 613 mitzvahs is from Smaloi, Maramakas.
Yeah.
And that's because that's in conversation. Before it says Akaspe de Rabbi Smaloi. He was leaning on Rabbi Smaloi's shoulder. Amalei, so in conversation, Rabbi Huda, who was the teacher, he said Smaloi. It's when he's talking to him. That doesn't mean he's not a rabbi.
No, I was wondering.
Yeah, but this is in conversation. He's calling this. So Smaloi. The teacher doesn't call the student rabbi. The teacher talks to the student just by name. He says, Smalai, you weren't with us yesterday in the Beis Medrash when we permitted oil. We had a whole discussion over there, and we made a decision that that oil is permissible. Remember the Mishnah we were discussing? Does oil from a non-Jew need to have a hechsher? And we said that Rebbe Bestina Hitiru. We explained that it wasn't Rebbe Bestina, it was Rebbe Yehuda Nasiya, that they allowed the oil. And what was the explanation? Said that they held that Neis and Tam Lefkam, the flavor that comes from the pots doesn't give a good flavor into the oil, and therefore it doesn't make the oil treif. The oil tastes better when it's without any extra flavors. Well, yeah, my mother thinks that the reason why the food tastes so good on Pesach is because the pots haven't been used for 12 months, so you don't have all those complex flavors from yesterday and the day before and the day before. So, anyway, here we're saying that the flavors that would go into the oil would not be a positive flavor, and therefore they don't make it impure. And that's what they decided. Rabbi Nasiya decided, and he's telling Reb Shmuel, "You weren't there when we did this." Amalai, Reb Shmuel responded, "B'yamina tater afazapas." You know what? We should already permit the bread. Now, the reason why they're permitting this is because it was difficult for people to accept the strictness of these laws. They say it's hard for us that we can't eat their bread. We should already permit the bread. Now, before we discussed is the bread permitted, bread of a non-Jew permitted, and we said in certain instances yes, and probably what the Gemara means here is we should have permitted it entirely. Amalai, so Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya says to Rabbi Shmuel, he says, "Im King Karlana based in Ashaya, they're going to say that we're a lenient group. You're going to think we went fry. So we're lenient. People like to have hummus. Anyway, the Tanan started in the Mishnah. Hey, Rabbi Yosef ben Yezer straight I'll come to the Chain. Rabbi Yosef ben Yezer of Tzreda, if you remember him from the first chapter of Pirkei Avos, he testified that ayal kamtzo, a certain type of grasshopper, is dechein, is tahar, is pure, which means it's edible, it's kosher. And also that the liquids that were in the temple, in the part of the temple where they used to slaughter the animals, all of that is pure as well. All those liquids, the decree on liquid, that it becomes a sheni latuma, right? And a liquid becomes a rishon latuma. Hands are sheni latuma. So he said, but not in the Beis Hamikdash. Al dikrav l'maisa, and someone that's close to a corpse, misav becomes tummy. Someone that touches a corpse becomes tummy. V'karla Yosef Sharia, and they said that Yosef, the lenient one, they nicknamed him the one that has all the leniencies. And so we have to be careful. We don't want to fall into that trap. So that's what Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya is saying, that why he's not going to permit the bread. Umar says, Amarlei, Hasam Sharia Tlas, Masha Achada, you take it easy. He permitted three things. You only permitted one thing. And so we still have a chance. There's more things that you could do without getting that nicknamed Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya Sharia. Even if you permit one more thing, which is what he's suggesting is to permit the bread, you're only two. You still have credit. Amalei anashiroi achriti maihi. Anashiroi achriti. I have to put a period there. I already permitted one other thing that you're forgetting about, and so therefore this would be my third thing, and the third strike, and you're out. Maihi. What's the other thing that he permitted? The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. The following, go into a totally different topic. If a person tells his wife, "This is your get if I don't return for after 12 months," in other words, he's going on a trip. He doesn't know if he's going to make it back. Doesn't want his wife to be stuck, either not knowing if he's alive or if he's could be that he had a brother and they didn't have children yet, and the brother is very young. He doesn't want his wife to have to wait for the boy to grow up to do yibum. So he says, if I don't return to resolve all of these issues, this is your get, which means you're divorced. You're free to remarry whoever you want. However, what really happened is he died within the 12 months. Well, died, she can get remarried, yes, but not if there's Yibam. Not if there's a brother. She has to wait for the brother to be of age and then to do Yibam or Chalitza. So, ain't a get. We say that get that was given is not a good get because when should the get take effect? After he dies. That's after the 12 months. Well, there is no such thing as a get for a deceased husband. So, B'tani Allah, the Brisa teaches on this Mishnah. This is called the Tesefta. It adds a commentary on the Mishnah. Rabbi Seinu etiru linasi, that the rabbis allowed her to get married. Whoa, just said it's not a get. How does she get married without the yibam to the brother? Barmin and Man Rabbi Seinu, we said, who are the rabbis? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Beis Dina Deshar Mishcha. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. It's that same Bezdin that permitted the oil. You know that hechsher, that Bezdin, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. They also permitted that this person get married. Well, that's the second one. Sabri like Rabbi Yosi. Now, how did they permit this? The answer is because they hold like Rabbi Yosi. This is in Masechta Gittin, Damar Zmana Shel Shtar Mechiach Alav. Rabbi Yosi says that when you put a date in the document, put a date in the get, so that date tells you when you want it to take effect. Otherwise, why do you need a date? So, because there's a date there that says that on this and this day, what's today, Chav Tes? On Chav Tes Tammuz, this woman is divorced from her husband if he does not return after 12 months. So why do you say Chav Tes Tammuz? It's coming to tell me that it's retroactive. That if he doesn't return after 12 months, it goes back to the date of that was written in the document, which was Chav Tes Tammuz. So if it's retroactive, then the get can take effect because he was alive back then. Amar Rabbi Abba, brother of Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Hayrav Alei Haidulai, Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Chia bar Abba is a student of Rabbi Yechanan. Interesting. He says that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi paskin like this, that Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, he calls him Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, means Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. He paskin like this, Alei Haidulai kol shatai, all his time, all his life. All the Chachamim that were during his days did not agree with this opinion, the lenient opinion of Rabbi Yosi, that the date in the document considers it retroactive. And some say his entire Bezdin didn't agree with him. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda and Nasiya tried to allow something that the people didn't agree with. Amar Rabbi Lazar lahu Saba. It says we are Rabbi Eliezer, it's Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar is the Amira, Elazar ben Pedas. And he was around during the time Yechanan, during the time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, and he says to an elder, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya must have been earlier than Rabbi Yechanan. He says, Kisharisua, when they permitted this, when did they permit this woman to get married? See, let's say he dies 6 months in. So statistically, he's not coming back within the next 6 months. That's okay. So can we say that the fact that we know the future that he's not coming back, do we have to wait for the 12 months to be up? To say retroactively that it took place, that the get was effective 12 months ago when he wrote the get on Chav Tes Tammuz? Or do we say that no, right away, right when he dies, you can already say he's not coming and she can get remarried immediately. But you have to wait till the end of the year, right? Because he said after 12 months, then it should take effect. Or can we already assume that he's not coming back because he died?
This case is back up.
What do you mean to back up?
Like in the case if she gets lost, she has to get, right? But in the case that if someone comes and tests and says, look, like Pastor Shalom, that your husband, something happened to her husband, they she doesn't need this paper.
She needs the paper. She needs the paper because the husband has a brother. If she's a widow, if she's a widow, then she needs to do ibam. If she's a divorcee, then she can immediately get remarried. She can marry whoever she wants. If she's a widow, she has to marry that brother. So the idea here is, when can she make use of this get, right? When can she obviously, when he dies, the husband's dead, she should be allowed to do chalitza and ibam, because if there's a get, then she's not allowed to do ibam. So this, well, the Gemara says, why are you asking on Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya that had this interesting halacha about if someone says, why don't you just ask straight on the Mishnah that says, there is a way. You see, we were relying on Rabbi Yossi's view that the date in the document makes it retroactive. But you don't need to say that. We have other cases of retroactive without relying on the date in the document, which is a chiddush of Rabbi Yossi. What's that case? If someone says me'achshav, someone says, this is your get from now, if I don't return after 12 months. So if you use the word from now, then you're saying that it's going to be retroactive. So you could have asked the same question then. If someone says that this is your get from now, me'achshav, if I don't return after 12 months, then the person died after 6 months, sometime within the 12 months, so have a get. Then it's considered a good get. They kaim l'tanah, because he definitely kept the stipulation. He's not coming back, right? V'tibaylach, you should have asked the question on that Mishnah. Do you have to wait for the full 12 months, or can you get married immediately after the person died, after the husband died? Why did you have to ask the question on Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya that's passing like Rabbi Yossi? You could have asked that same question if a person says mi'achshav, which everyone agrees with.
That they were discussing, like, if most of the people didn't accept the. So I was wondering, like, nobody accepted this.
Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. It says all his days he didn't accept it. Maybe afterwards they did. But that doesn't affect what the Gemara is asking now. The Gemara is asking, why didn't he ask the question on the Mishnah, which is more substantial? The Gemara says, "Enachanami." You're right. He could have asked on the Mishnah also, but this elder wasn't there at the time the Mishnah was written. He was there at the time when they sat together about this question. So he asked him, "Tell me what happened. Tell me what was going on." Amar Abaya. Abaya comes and elaborates on this. Everyone would agree that if the husband says, this is your get, when the sun comes out of its sheath, which is an expression for when the sun rises, you have to wait until the morning for the get to take effect. And if he died in middle of the night, get lachamisahu, then it would be a get that was taking effect after he died, in which we say it doesn't work. Almanas on condition that the sun comes out of its sheath, which means on condition, this is you get on condition the sun rises. Anytime we have a rule, anytime you say on condition, what you really mean to say is that it's taking effect now, but there's a condition that it should take effect. So it's retroactive. That was a condition, but the get took place while he was alive. Like Rav Huna says, whoever says on condition really means to say that the get is taking effect now. You just have to fulfill that stipulation, but it takes effect back then. So where was the machlekes? If the sun comes out of its sheath, if the sun rises. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi would hold like Rabbi Yossi that says, well, I have a date in the document that says what day it was. It would be like saying, from today, if I die, it is like saying, from now, if I die. Rabbanan don't hold the Rabbi Yossi, so they don't hold the date in the document. You have to figure out over here is, if it was at night, then the document should have the same date. Sure. They have a note on that? All right. So there's a machlekes here if we go like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya does and the Rabbanan don't. The next thing that we mentioned over here was Yossi ben Yezer was called Yossi Sharia, Yosef Sharia. He was called the lenient, the one that permits everything, permitter, Yosef the permitter. So one of the things that he permitted is the ayel kamtze. He said that that's kosher, pure. So the Gemara says like this: Hey gufa, hey Yisreda al ayel kamtze dechein. That type of grasshopper is pure. Al mashkebes mituchai dechein. That the liquids in the base of Migdash, in the area where they did the slaughtering, that those liquids are pure. And someone that comes close to a corpse is considered impure. Karli Yosef Shaya, and they said that he's someone that permits everything. My ayal kamtza, what's the story with that ayal kamtza, which is this type of grasshopper? Papa Mershushiva. Papa says it's the grasshopper called Shushiva, and I have no idea what that is. Rav Chia Barash Mishmedul Amr Susfil. Rav Chia Barash Barami, the name of Ula says that it's Susfil, another type of grasshopper. Yeah, the Koran would probably have a name of a grasshopper. Page around 37. Good enough. Ayel Kamtza is the Aramaic for grasshopper. Ayel Kamtza is apparently the name given to a particular kind of locust whose head resembles the head of a ram. Slant-faced grasshopper. They have a picture here. See that? Yeah, it's delicious.
Breakthrough discovery.
I told you in yeshiva, I had a roommate that was like, yeah, he has like to do practical jokes. He took me to his relative's house. Did I tell you this story? And over there were these chocolates in a bowl. So his relative wasn't home. He said, "Don't worry, it's my aunt." Anyway, she lived like a few blocks from the yeshiva. So I said, "Don't worry, take." So he said, "What is it?" So it was chocolate, like squiggly chocolate. Anyway, he said, "I'll tell you after you eat." It was first thing. So I said, "But what bracha am I supposed to say?" Oh, shahakal. Say shahakal. Okay. Say shahakal. I was eating it. I had like this tangy taste. But he says, "Oh my gosh, you're Ashkenazi, right?" I said, "Yeah, but you're also Ashkenazi." He said, "No, don't you see I'm a little bit dark?" He says, "I'm so sorry. It's chocolate covered grasshoppers." I was like going to the sink to spit it out. Anyway, then he said, "I'm just kidding. It's orange peel."
Oh.
Anyway, so that's my grasshopper story. Okay, so yeah. So these are different types of grasshoppers. Rapapa Mushushiva. Rapapa says that Shushiva Kamifl Gibrayshayarach. Machlekes over here is this type of grasshopper that has a long head. Marsav Reisharach Asr, Marsav Reisharach Mutter. Machlekes is it if it has a long head, is it Asr or Mutter? This has to do with how we learn. There's 4 types of grasshoppers that are kosher, and how we learn what they need to be, what the criteria is to be kosher. That is the opinion of Rav Papa, who said that it's Shushiva. Rav Chia Barami, Mishmedul Amr Suspil, he says that it's Suspil, that it's Breisha Yarach Kuli Amalei Pligadasir. That's the long head. Everyone says that that's not kosher. Here we're talking about the wings cover over the majority of the body, but it's not a big majority. It's just like 51%. It's not like 75%. Marsaver Ruba Kaldahu Binan. One opinion says it just needs to be the majority. We know it needs to be the covering. The wings need to cover the majority of the body. So one says the majority is the majority. It's 51%. Marsaver Ruba the Minkar Binan. The other one says it needs to be a recognizable majority, something that you can see, so you can spot it right away. Okay, now the next thing that was permitted by Rabbi Yosi ben Yezer was Mamashke Beis Mitzvachaya Dechain. The liquids of the Beis Mitzvachaya, which is the Beis Mitzvachayim, the area in the Beis Mikdash where they did the slaughtering, all of those liquids are pure. Now, normally, liquids have a rabbinic tumah on them. My Dechain. What does it mean that it's pure? Rava Medechain Mamre says, yeah, it's literally pure. Those liquids have no problem. And the Shmuel Amar Dechain Melatami Acherim says no, they're just pure that they don't make anything else impure. Two types of, it can't contract tumah, it can't pass over the tumah onto anything else. Aval tumas atzmi yeshbim, but they themselves are going to be impure. Rav Amar Dechain Mamish Kasava Rav that says that it's literally pure, that even these liquids themselves are pure. Tumas Mashkan Derabban. He says that the rule that liquids become impure, all of that is all rabbinic. The rabbis only made the decree outside the temple, but inside the temple there's no decree, and therefore it's all pure. Shmuel says that it's pure from contracting something else, making something else tummy. But its own purity, it doesn't. It's going to be impure. He holds that the tumah, the impurity on liquid is actually a biblical law. But can it pass over the tumah to something else? That's a problem. That's only rabbinic. When did they say that it can pass over? That's the pass over the impurity. That's only on regular fluids, but not in the Beis Hamikdash. Now the explanation here for this machlokes is based on a pasuk. The pasuk says that anything that's in any food that's in the earthenware vessel that had liquid on it is tamei. And then it says any liquid any liquid that could be drunk or something like that. Anyway, there's a machlokes. What's the pshat when it continues the pasuk and any liquid? Doesn't mean that liquids have an impurity. Or is it describing the liquid that was machsher, that made the food susceptible to tumah? Rav says that it's only explaining the liquid that made it susceptible, and Shmuel says that it's an independent piece of the pasuk, which says that liquid itself has a tumah deraisa. Okay. We said that anyone. We said there were three things that Yosi ben Yezer allowed, and because of that, he was called Yosef the permitter. So one of them is that anyone that comes close to a corpse, that touches a corpse, is tummy. Gemara says that means he's a permitter. Yosef astrami ba'ilai. He should have. That means that he's Yosef that makes forbidden, not permits. And void. And another issue is deiraisi. That's a biblical law. That's not Yosef. It sounds like one question is going to answer the other. It says that anyone that touches on the corpse on the face of the field is going to become tummy. So if he touches it, he's tummy. That's not Yosi ben Yezer. That's the Torah. The Gemara explains that the Raisa Yikrav tummy. According to the Torah, anyone that touches the corpse becomes tummy. The Yikrav tar. But if you touch someone that touched the corpse, then you're going to be pure. So Inu came along. I'm sorry. Inu means the sages. Begazar, they made a decree. Afilu dikrav b'dikrav, that even if you touch someone that touched the corpse, you're going to be tummy. Yosi ben Yezer came v'kmadai, and he said that only the one that actually touches the corpse, but not the one that touches the one that touched the corpse. Well, dikrav b'dikrav nami deraisa. What are you telling me? Truth is that someone that touches an impure person, someone that touched the corpse, that the second person is also tamei midaraisa. We have a pasuk that says whoever the impure person touches, becomes tamei. So Amru Rabban Kamei Rav Mishmei Marzuch Beit Rav Nachman Dam Mishmei Rav Nachman. Marzuch, the son of Rav Nachman, said in the name of Rav Nachman, which was said over, the sages said this over in front of Rava, While the person is touching the corpse, this is like electricity. While he's in contact with the corpse, someone else comes and touches him, then he's going to be tamei for 7 days. But if the person that touched the corpse is not still, his fingers not attached, not still in contact with the corpse, he's walked away, he stood back, then he touches someone else, then it's tumas erev, then he's only tamei evening. And they made a decree because sages made a decree that he should be tamei for 7 days, even while he's not in constant contact, in contact with the corpse. He came and said that he's only tamei until evening, even if he's in contact, even if he's touching the corpse. Okay, that's what he meant when he said someone that touches the corpse is tamei. He meant only the one that touches the corpse, but the second guy that touches him is not, and that's why he's considered the permitter. Follow? It's the diuk of what he. What is the deraisa? It says someone that touches the corpse, it's tummy 7 days. And it also says that anyone that touches the impure, anything that the impure person touches is tummy. It says that the one that touches is tummy until evening. Okay, son. How do we have this? It's tummy for 7 days, it's tummy for till evening. So the answer is kan bechiburin. Depends if while he's in contact with it, kan shlei bechiburin, or if he's separated and another person comes and touches the one that touched the corpse after he's not touching him anymore. Amalu Rava says to the sages when they said this in the name of Rav Mar Zutra, the son of Rav Nachman, in the name of Rav Nachman. So Rava is listening to this and he says, Lava mino lachu, have I not told you? Leititlu be buki sreiki Rav Nachman. Don't attribute empty jugs to Rav Nachman, like ridiculous things. Pachim Rav Nachman. Nachman never said this. What Rav Nachman did say was, Safik tumah b'shus harabim hitilem. That if there's a doubt if someone became tamei and it's in a public area, so Yosef ben Yezer said that it's permissible. He's pure. Gemara says that's what Yosef ben Yezer says. Hilchas misaita gamrin. That's halacha. We learn it from a saita. Ma saita b'shas hayachid. Just like the saita. Where does the saita become impure? What the saita is the woman that's not faithful. Where does she become impure? In private. So just like the saita. Rishus hayachid, it's in Rishus hayachid in a private area. After Rishus hayachid. So also the impurity is in the Rishus hayachid. It's impossible to be secluded in a Rishus harabim. So we learn from that the same thing applies to any saita. We're not sure what she did, right? We know that the door closed, but we don't know what happened behind that door. So if it's in a private area, then we suspect and we say that she's prohibited to her husband until we clarify. So, but if it's in a public area, then we say that she's pure. Now the same thing should apply. If there's a doubt if someone touched the sheretz or not, or something like that, so then if it's in a private area, it's tamei. If it's a public area, it's tar. So he allowed it in a public area. So he said, but we learned that from a saita. Rabbi Yochanan said, halacha ve'in mayrin kain. True, that's the halacha, but that's the tradition. But we don't pass like that. And the Yosef ben Yosef came and said, no, you can actually rely on that. You can announce it in public. We're not worried about people being mezalzel, people taking this for lenient. Tanya Namiyachi was also taught in the Braisa. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Kairas Natzlem. Rabbi Yehuda says that Yosi ben Yoyezer went out and he set up beams. V'amar, and he said, Ad kan Rishus harabim, Ad kan Rishus hayachid. Put up posts around the city. saying, you want to know if you're going to become tummy if you touch a sheretz over here, or if you touch someone over there. And this, he had signs up saying, this is the Rosh Hashanah, this is the Rosh Hashanah, to show that we're relying on this and you can do this. Yes, yeah, like an Erev. Yes, when they came before Rabbi Yanai, Amalahu, he said, Hamaya bishikasa de binara zilu tvulu. Someone had a suffix tumah in Rosh Hashanah. When he came to Rabbi Yanai said, you should go in Taival in the mikveh. Now, does that mean that he's rejecting Rabbi Yossi ben Yezer, or does that mean that he's saying even though you don't make anything else impure, but you should still go to the mikveh anyway? Let's see what he says. The Gemara relates that when people came before Rabbi Yanai because he suspected that they might have come in contact with the source of impurity in a public domain, he said to them, why involve yourselves in matters of uncertainty? There's deep water in the river. Go immerse yourselves in it and resolve the problem in that manner. That doesn't mean that he's arguing with.
Told them in
the case of the suffix, but Rabbi Yossi ben Yezer would say that it's totally pure. And he's saying he's arguing with him, I guess. Okay, let's leave it over here. We're up to Vashlakas. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Great Shabbos.